Hello and welcome to Signal Lantern, your beacon of freedom in the Northeast. I am your host, Jason, and here with me today is Matt.
Hey everybody, it feels so weird to have somebody else saying that to me now.
The way we first conceptualized this podcast, I was going to be the one doing the interviews, but frankly, I don't want to say I got lazy, but I kind of just let him take over because he has the whole studio. As you'll notice today, we're virtual. That's because one of our previous people had canceled on us, and so we're sort of just throwing this together last minute. It's 11 in the morning, and we're both very tired, but we're talking about something very serious.
Well, I would hold on. I'd like to preface this by saying our guest got busy because the snowstorm messed up her schedule really badly.
Can I get an L in the chat?
Yeah.
Womp womp.
But
Sorry, that's my Gen Z coming
no,
or Gen Alpha, right? Like before this, he's just like, "Oh, you're honorary, you're Gen Alpha now," because
yeah,
I
I
forgot what I
downgraded
said.
you.
I forgot what I said that made you do this. All right, so we want to talk about the Keepers movement. What is it, and why exactly are we doing this?
Yeah, what is it? The Keepers movement is pretty much just our conglomerate of, you know, getting better people into office as opposed to the career politicians that we've been stuck with and the corruption that ultimately leads from that. You know, we need more good, honest, hardworking people that understand the plights of everyday citizens to get into politics. So we need to show them the support that they need to actually succeed.
And especially people who actually follow the Constitution and take sort of like an Antonin Scalia originalist interpretation, where they're not trying to bend the Constitution and making like a living document. They're actually following the letter and the spirit of it.
Yeah, there's too many people that try to pull this whole like, oh, the Constitution is up for interpretation. Our founding fathers wrote most of the amendments as a bit ambiguous so that they would be timeless. You know, the First Amendment, protection of free speech, of freedom of religion, freedom of the press. It doesn't just apply to the printing press. It doesn't just
It
apply
applies to
to,
us
yeah,
because
exactly.
we're a podcast studio. That's pretty press of us.
Exactly. This form of media is protected by the Constitution. Also, Jason, I'm getting some feedback.
Feedback.
I can hear myself and yours.
What? Okay, we're gonna cut that out. Technical difficulties. Boo!
um,
Is that any better?
now I can still hear myself.
It's not a me problem.
I don't know. Anyways, yeah, this is protected speech. Having a podcast, posting it on the internet, just like having a radio show or having a TV show. It's all protected speech. And then we kind of you move on to the other things. Your right to bear arms. It was left ambiguous so that
Yeah,
firearms could
right
evolve.
to bear nuclear weapons and no. Okay, that is a hot take that Timcast shares legally. Okay, Thomas Jefferson was like, yeah, privateers, you can own cannons on your ships, right? This is a hot take, and even like respected like Victor Nieves doesn't agree with me on this. I'm like, okay, if you want to ban private citizens from owning biological and nuclear weapons, you have to have a constitutional amendment. They say right to bear arms, but doesn't specify what type of arms. Sure, it might be entirely impractical for a private citizen to own nuclear weapons, but I'm just saying on principle, they totally could if they could get their hands on.
I All right, as a Second Amendment absolutist,
You better be on the right side of this.
I I can't disagree with you because
Hell
typically
yeah.
because typically my opinion on it just kind of stops at the whole like private citizens should be able to just freely own machine guns, and my main argument for that is, I'm sorry, have you seen the price of ammunition? I'm not, like, even if I owned an AR-15 with a full auto setting, I think I would do that precisely one time. I would blow through one singular 30 round mag, and then my wallet would be crying, and then I would never do it again. Like, it would purely be a novelty item to be able to own a machine gun just because I can't afford the ammunition.
But also, you have to like people be like, "Oh yeah, it's not rocket science." Like, I'm sorry. If you are a nuclear physicist and you can, I remember a story of like a Boy Scout who, for whatever reason, was able to like jerry rig a whole like energy plant in his garage.
Oh my god, I remember that
Yeah,
story. And now
and
he's on
like,
the no-fly list.
and
Like, for
if
life.
I'm sorry, if you are able to do that and make like a nuclear thing in your garage, more power to you, man. I mean, we're going real controversial with this episode. Usually Matt is the controversial one. I've been the boring one this whole time. You've caught me in rare form. But I'm just saying,
I
you should
love
be able to eat the fruits of what you make, right? Bear the fruits. If you go through all the effort of being a farmer and planting it, and tending it and watering it, you should able to enjoy what you have without the federal government coming in and taking it.
I love how we were supposed to be talking about the Keepers movement, and we just completely went off on a tangent about constitutionality.
Because the Constitution is central to everything that we're doing. You were talking about the rights and amendments, a Bill of Rights particularly, and I think one argument to be made, because people often point out the contradictions. Thomas Jefferson simultaneously wrote, "We hold these truths to be all self-evident. All men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that being life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." And then owned slaves, had babies with his slaves, and didn't free them when he died. That's really interesting and complex. However, he originally wrote in the Declaration of Independence that one of his gripes, one of his things against the king was, hey, we didn't want to be slave. You kind of just like forced that on us. You forced us to have slaves, and now our entire economy depends on it. And that's not cool, King George. Go, you know, kick sand. And they edited that out.
Yeah, from what I remember, quite a few of the founding fathers, when they saw the, all men are created equal, um, I think a few of them were even under the assumption that that declaration itself would actually be essentially banning slavery. Um, I think Hamilton was actually one of the ones that fell into that camp when he read the, all men are created equal. It was like, oh, this is also going to be abolishing slavery, which is part of why they signed immediately.
Yeah, and I guess one of the things is that they made sure not to put the term slavery in the Constitution. Like when they did like the three-fifths compromise, which people misunderstand, it wasn't a value judgment about like, oh, this they're three-fifths of a person. It was like the South wanted to have their cake and eat it too, and be like, yeah, they're property, but we're going to count them for tax purposes. And the North was like, no, 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 no. That would
Uh,
be
it,
very unbalanced.
it it wasn't tax purposes; it was for representation within
Yeah,
Congress,
within
because
Congress.
the amount of congressmen that you had was relative to your population, and if you only counted the white slaveholders and just the white people that were in the South, the population was extremely low. But then once you start adding in the, you know, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of enslaved people in the South, suddenly your population skyrockets and you can get more representatives in Congress.
But the thing is that there is a very succinct argument to be made that the founders like a lot of them on record were like, we don't like slavery. But even like Jefferson, they wrote the Constitution in a way that was a little bit ambiguous, so that way later on, um, they could have rights, like women could have the right to vote, and slavery would be abolished. And they knew that they couldn't do that because that would be like, killing the baby in the crib, but they wanted it to be done. And so, therefore, we must take seriously those ambiguities, but also the things that they put as red letter shall not be infringed. You have this right. And the 10th Amendment, which I don't think is spoken about quite often, is anything that isn't explicitly like given to the federal government or prohibited from the states and the people get it.
Yeah, it the Constitution in and of itself is more of a limitation on government power than it is, a set of rules for people to live by. I think a lot of people do end up kind of misinterpreting that. Um, is especially a lot of the people that are currently in our government, you know, that yeah, the Constitution affords us protections from the government.
Right. And so we, as the Keepers movement, we have seen all of the ways where people get elected and they come in, wide-eyed as a freshman congressperson to Washington, and then they get bought out by lobbyists, and we're sick of that.
I mean, it's not just, our congressmen, of course, everybody in the federal government is extremely corrupt, but
Epstein files,
yeah,
whichever be first.
yep. Um, but even at a state level, a lot of our state level politicians, they go in for the right reasons. Most people, I feel, go into politics for the right reasons. The problem is that over time they start to get ingrained in the establishment. They start to learn, okay, well, the only way that I can make friends is to be just like them. And so it just kind of perpetuates the cycle of good people going into politics that eventually become bad politicians because everyone else in politics is a bad politician. So they need to become like everyone else. Part of what we're trying to do is get a lot of those bad politicians out, get good
Yeah,
people
I
in.
mean,
And if we can get more good people in at the same time, then maybe we could even potentially start changing the political establishment as a whole.
and many people, well, first off, I'd compare politicians to prostitutes, but that would be insulting prostitutes because at least they're honest about what they're actually doing.
Man,
Um,
man, you just came out spicy today.
I have, yeah. Uh, Maybe keep this energy, put it on bonfire. By the way, we have a locals page now, and one of the things that I want to do is have an uncensored show called Bonfire. So definitely, if you like what we're doing, you know, microphones and podcast studio renting out is not cheap. So definitely shameless plug. Go to our locals, link in the description. You get uncensored takes. This is like, free trial version of Jason, right? But you want to see more of this, subscribe. We're gonna paywall that crap. Um,
I know. I don't. It's funny. If you want the uncensored Jason, you got to go into locals. You want the uncensored Matt. That's just what you get.
yeah, I know. Well, I have to be a respectable founder, right? That's the thing, because I have seen way too many people try and fail and go out with all these big-minded ideas and say, we're gonna change everything, but then the second things get tough, they quit. And I've seen that, and that is one of the things that I think sets the keepers movement aside. Duty, endurance, excellence, prudence. That endurance part is really important because we anticipate it to be a tough battle, but someone has to do it. And I'm sick of seeing people try and fail and keep throwing stuff against the wall. The ideas we have are philosophically sound, and tested and tried and true. It's not like, oh, true patriotism hasn't been tried. No, it has. We just forgot and like haven't had it for decades. And so what matters is actually grassroots, even at the town level. I mean, that's how this is going to take. It's going to start very granularly, very small. And I mean, we're already getting name recognition for races that we helped with or races that you helped with, Matt. Big credit to you. Um, and people are saying, "Oh yeah, Core, I've heard of you guys."
Yeah, it really is getting to the point where, you know, we are getting name recognition. You know, um we've gone to town meetings, we've gone to, you know, political events and introduced ourselves. I mean, I was out in what was it, Belmont, Mass at
Oh yeah, for Elizabeth Dionne.
yeah, at her campaign kickoff party because I had never, you know, met her. I had only heard of her through my connection, Alex Haggerty. And when I got there, yeah, a few people were like, "Wait, I'm pretty sure I've heard of you guys. You know, another friend met you at this event or at this town meeting, and um, you know, I'm thinking about running for office, so I'm very interested in what you know you guys are doing." So it's you know, there's that, and then we you know, Toby Leary from Cape Gunworks, you know, and the head of the Civil Rights Coalition fighting against the assault weapons ban here in Massachusetts. Um, I actually found out recently that he uses one of our was it one of our business cards
Yeah,
as a
yeah. So
bookmark.
it was actually really funny. So we were at a political training in uh, Plymouth, me and Remy, and it was on Valentine's Day, and it was a training where a bunch of people showed up, and among them was Toby Leary. And so I talked with him and I was going to give him a business card. And he's like, wait a second, I was just on vacation and that was my bookmark. So, I mean, hey, that's a good idea. Start selling Keepers Movement bookmarks. I mean, that at least get people thinking about us. I was like, printing
Yeah,
presses.
I know if the you know if you have the logo in front of everyone's face, they'll start to you know remember it and associate and yeah, you know it's just interesting to think that like in such a short time, you know, already our name recognition or, you know, brand
Results don't
recognition, I
lie.
guess, has already kind of started to spread around. And, you know, we've been speaking with a good handful of political candidates from varying levels, town, state, um, that are all, you know, kind of they're interested, you know, in at least seeing what the keepers movement can actually do. Um, you know, we have some who are interested more in the podcast. We have others that, you know, are looking for volunteers. Um, you know, which, you know, the Project Revere um pack is always looking for more fresh volunteers.
Volunteer with Project Revere.
It's always looking for fresh volunteers and you know, the more people that we can get across Massachusetts, the more that we can you know, help good candidates get into office. You know, there's two big things that really help um, win campaigns. And the first one is money, which we don't
It's
really have.
there's three money people lifts.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, the second one being people. And you
We
know,
the people.
exactly, we the people. And if we can get more and more volunteers with Project Career, then we can get the good candidates, the volunteers that they need to help them win their campaigns, to go and door knock, to go and sign hold, to go and stand out in front of a grocery store.
I guess that's a very important thing when it comes to that is a lot of people get confused because now we've got two separate things. We've got Core, Keepers of the Revolution, and we've got Project Revere, and we've got Signal Lantern, all sort of in this umbrella. And I think the thing that's interesting, I mean, I'm as the sort of founder, the one who's been doing all the paperwork. And by the way, I've developed a uh, I loathe all of these different like 3 letter, 4 letter organizations like and people would say, "Oh, FBI, DOJ." No, 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 no. I'm talking about like the IRS, the FEC, OCPF. Like that, I just so many headaches because all of it has to be legally distinct. You've got a 501c3 or 501c4, and then you've got a PAC, and they have different rules and they can't share money. So the way to think about this is the Keepers movement. Keepers of the Revolution is the C4, and that one deals with issues. So if you're a gun nut like Matt, or if you're a free speech absolutist, or if you're, pro life, or if you're uh, any of these issues, there's like so many different splintered single issue C4s. There's like Mass Family Institute, Goal, it was a Gun Owners Action League is their
Yep.
full thing. Uh, Massachusetts Citizens for Life, Mass Fiscal Alliance. There is a group and an organization for each one of that, but where's the coalition of coalitions? So the 501c4 aspect, Keepers of the Revolution, that is for issues. Now, if you're supporting a political candidate, that's PAC territory. Matt, talk about it.
So it basically, as the head of Project Revere, it's my job to organize our volunteers to go out and help political candidates. The PAC doesn't really touch on issues. Like if you wanted to go out and help overturn the assault weapons ban, then you would be dealing with Keepers of the Revolution. If you want to go and help, I don't know, um, Joe from over in the next town
Like Joe
run
Bronski.
for yeah, exactly. If you wanted to help Joe Bronski run for school board in Weymouth,
Again.
he doesn't know if he's going to or not. But
Oh,
anyways,
he freaking better.
if you wanted to, for say help Joe Bronski over in Weymouth run for school board again, then you would be dealing with Project Revere. The political action committee is who deals with candidates, and or if you wanted to go help Liz Dion, for instance, but that's also assuming that those are candidates that are PAC is going to be actually supporting. We might find candidates that come to us and are like, hey, I could really use some help, and after
They're
getting
like,
to,
oh my
after
god,
looking into their,
or
yeah, it's like after
they're
looking
holding blood feast.
after getting into their campaign, getting to know them and like what their goals are, we may decide that, what, this relationship might not be a good fit. And as a nonpartisan movement, we could find Democrats that we really like and decide that we want to support them. We may find Republicans that we like and want to support them. We can find independents or libertarians, Green Party, basically anybody across the political spectrum. And if we feel that your ideas are in the best interest of the people,
And that you actually have the backbone and spine enough to implement them and not be bought out.
and so long as you are willing to uphold the Constitution, then the Keepers movement will support you. And I mean, obviously, no volunteer with us is forced to support any particular candidate. Where it's more of a gentle nudge, like a hey, we kind of vetted this person. We think they're pretty good.
And I guess that's the frustrating thing right now is we all say volunteer with Project Revere because the more people we have, the more candidates we can support. There could be very well-meaning candidates that come to us and say, "Hey, I'm over here in a I don't know, Lowell, which is like north, and like, hey, I really need your support." And we have to say, "Listen, we don't have the people. We want to support you, but we can't." And so I feel like this is sort of a slow burn situation where the more elections we win, the more name recognition we get, the more people are going to want to be involved. But right now, in this sort of liminal space between who we are and who we're supposed to be, uh, it is sort of that grind that we talk about, that we anticipate.
Funnily enough, I've actually been finding that the a lot of the volunteers that have at least been signing up, or expressing that they want to be more involved, they're actually political candidates. Like Ashley Dickerman, for instance, she's actually come out to, um as of right now, just one of our, standouts over in Abington, but she's actually planning on being a lot more involved with Keepers, with the Keepers movement and Project Revere, because she believes in, the mission that we're trying to achieve, of just getting the support out. Like when I was going and helping her to get elected for school board, it was actually really just me and my wife who were going out there, but having those extra two people out holding signs, you know, it it, sh- it adds to the crowd, and if we had the manpower to be able to flood every street corner with the signs of every candidate that we think is good, then what's going to catch people's attention, what's going to catch voters attention, if you
Memes.
if you drive through an intersection, there's two people holding signs for a candidate, or if you drive through an intersection and there's 50 people holding signs for a candidate, who do you think might is probably going to win that upcoming election? It's probably going to be the person who has 50 people holding their signs, because they all took the time on a Saturday to go stand out for 2 hours
Yeah.
to get the word out. it's the power of people is very important, and
Power of people, man.
I think a lot of people don't realize just how important in this day of social media and podcasts and everything, people are starting to lose touch with that old human factor that's been winning elections for 250 years of this country.
Yeah. And I guess you were talking about media and podcasts. I mean, that's kind of what we're doing here. One of the things we want to do is sort of be a trusted source of information, um, and actually being able to vet, like, this is what it is, and to hold debate forums, uh, be able to weigh in and say, hey, this person's constitutional, this person is not. And like, for example, there's how many ballot questions this November?
Oh God, I don't even remember. I think it
It's in the
last
double digits,
Oh my, it's far beyond that. I think we're looking, at least in Massachusetts, something around like 30 or like
right?
30 ballot questions. It's going to be absolutely
I mean, the
insane.
the whole packet is going to be like this thick of, like, when you're going in on election day. It's like, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't even looked at it in a while. It was only as of like the end of last year. I think they said there was something like 26 of the 42 ballot questions that were being put forward were on track to get their signature counts, or had already had their signature counts. I haven't even looked, and in the
right.
last like
And
month
so
or
if
two.
you, as the head of Project Revere Pack, are getting overwhelmed with all of the ballot questions, imagine you, the audience, how many people are gonna look at the thing and just not vote on anything because they are just so overwhelmed
Well,
with the mass of questions that is
it,
facing them.
it's not necessarily the issue that they're going to not vote. I think my biggest fear is that people will go in and they'll look at the ballot questions and go, I don't really understand this, but I think it's a yes vote to
Right.
to do it. And the state,
The language that they do is so stupid.
it really is. And I will give the state of Massachusetts credit that they do put out a booklet before
Yeah.
these elections that basically has both sides of the argument um for the ballot questions, and then like what a yes vote means and what a no vote means, but people don't even know that exists.
I yeah.
Like it is
I
one of
only
the
knew it
few
existed
things.
because there was a bunch of them at my school.
Yeah, like it's one of the few things that I do have to give the Massachusetts government some kudos on, because
Kudos.
but at the same time, I think that it needs to be a little bit more publicized that we do actually have that booklet. Um,
Yeah.
because I know a lot of people that walk in, they see the ballot questions and they go, I voted yes on that one, no on that one. And I'm sitting there going, do you know what you just voted for?
Did you
And
know that
and
you
then once
just voted for legalized I don't know, public hangings?
yeah, exactly. Like no, the no vote
You
on
you
that
just
question.
voted to go to war with Iran. Oh, wait a sec.
No, but that's what I mean is the so many people don't understand what it is. And I think that's also where at least Keepers of the Revolution, the 501c4, is going to come into play a lot, is on those ballot questions. But I mean, we also here on the podcast, we would love to be able to, talk to those people. And I mean, it hasn't fully been confirmed yet, but we're still ironing out some details. But we are actually working to try and get Toby Leary on our
Fingers
podcast to talk.
crossed.
Yeah, exactly. Fingers crossed, to try and talk about um the assault weapons ban and you know
Because,
basically
right,
his standpoint on it.
isn't it a no vote that you have to do in that one?
I honestly don't even remember.
No, because the way they phrase it is like voting yes would be to keep the assault weapons ban, and voting no would be to take it away. But it's phrased in a stupid way where it makes it sound like you're supposed to vote yes, and yes gets rid of it, but it's actually yes keeps it.
I honestly don't even remember. It's been such a confusing thing, and I mean, I know that our state government has been trying to do everything that they can to force it through, and it just irritates the hell out of me. Um,
The you mean the ban or the like get Toby to shut up type thing? Or
no,
both?
honestly, both. I mean, I'm not going to get into this right now because I will go for ever about this, and I'm saving any ranting
We've got
that I
10
have.
minutes.
No, I'm saving any ranting that I'm gonna do for in the event that Toby is able to come on.
Okay. Okay, so be
That
it.
I am restraining myself for the proper episode, but basically the
Well, just like
gist.
I'm restraining my stuff about like Roscoe Conkling and the rise of the modern spoils system for Elizabeth Dione.
Exactly. So, and I would also like to point that out too, that the Signal Lantern podcast is a nonpartisan political podcast. We will have anyone, regardless of political affiliation, on, because the free spread of ideas is what the First Amendment is all about.
Sunlight is the best disinfectant. If someone's crazy, I'd like to know that before I vote them into office.
He has a point.
I do,
No,
and I know it.
we want people to come on, politicians. We want them to come on. We want them to tell, the people about their beliefs, because yeah, they might say something or express a belief on here that otherwise they might not have, and that might get people to vote for them, or that might get people to not vote for them. And then same thing with like the instance of getting someone like Toby Leary to come on, that's to discuss a ballot question, an issue. And he might be able to explain things in such a way that might convince some people who are in favor of the assault weapons ban to change their stance on it and instead vote against it. Um, he could also end up doing the opposite and talk about it in such a way that gets some people who are against it to vote in favor of it. We don't know until those people come on.
The free marketplace of ideas cannot be underestimated. And I view both, I mean, the First Amendment is pretty clear, but the implications you can draw from it is that both censorship and compelled speech are equally as as more like morally awful. Like, you can't prevent someone from saying something that they would already have said, but you also can't force somebody to say something that they wouldn't have otherwise said.
Yeah, it the free spread of ideas is just such an important thing, and trying to get people to believe something a certain way or vote a certain way, at least in the way that, you know, modern media does.
Except if you believe my ideas, in which case you're objectively right and don't change anything.
I have something that I want to say, but I'm not going to
Do
say it.
it. Do
No,
it.
I'm not
Do it.
saying it.
Is it about him?
No,
Is it about Corteliu?
no.
Can you say it to me after?
I will say it to you after, but this is a personal opinion of mine that
Oh
I am not
no.
saying.
Oh
I am not
no.
saying on camera.
Oh god. Oh, now I'm curious. It tends to happen a lot. But a curious mind is one that every citizen should have. And I feel like there's some simultaneous threads that make politics seem like it's this awful thing. There's this, oh, we don't speak religion, politics, or finances at this dinner table, which frames politics as something that is to be viewed with contention to begin with. But I believe in the right and the ability of adults to have conversations, even if they disagree, about things that matter the most to them. Furthermore, um, you may not care about politics, but politics will so certainly care about you.
Yeah, far too many people nowadays are getting into the mindset of I don't like politics, I don't want to talk about politics. You know, none of it has anything to do with me, and it's like actually it does.
Yeah.
You know, especially town level politics. I Too many people discount town level politics and its direct effect on you because I mean your city council, your select board, your mayor, you know,
Your library trustee?
those positions they have an effect on things like your property values, on your excise taxes on your vehicles, on how good your schools are in your local area. They do have an effect. And people who just don't get involved in politics or aren't educated in politics, I feel don't have the right to complain when things go bad because
Well, they have
you,
the free
you
speech to complain, but on
they
principle, i-
you,
if you're gonna complain about something, why not do something to fix it?
exactly, you're willfully ignorant, and by that extension, when your property taxes go up, you know, and suddenly you're having a hard time affording your home or your car, all because somebody got voted in that, you know, you didn't even go out and vote on election day because what do town elections even matter?
Yeah.
No, you, I just, I look at those people and I'm like, you don't have the right to
And
complain.
if you got a bunch of septuagenarian retirees running your government and then they die, and it's like, what's going on here? Nancy Pelosi. No, but okay. I want to talk about goals. I want to talk about what we want the Keepers movement more broadly to become. Because I'm the founder of Keepers of the Revolution. He's the head of Project Revere. Ideally, this is going to become like 10 distinct legal organizations in the little plan I've got in my brain. But, what do you want us to think about as we grow? And we can come back to this episode, laugh at it, but then really have this be a grounding of don't stray from this.
I think the thing that we need to, or the framework that we really need to lay down now is that the Keepers movement is a constitutional, nonpartisan movement. Um, you know, I think that we need to focus on the things that do really matter: individual liberties, you know, transparency within our government, eliminating corruption, and getting focusing on more grassroots issues. I know that when the discussion to create Keepers of the Revolution happened, um, the discussion of scope was a big talking point, and we have we decided that if it's it you know it should so happen that we begin to grow and are able to start operating in other
Hard
states.
line in the sand. We're not going anywhere beyond New England.
Exactly. The borders of Keepers of the Revolution stop at New York. We hit Western Mass, Western Vermont, Western Connecticut, and that's where we stop. We do not push into New York. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, people will beg, but we have proved, or we will have proved, a model that works that other people can take and implement in their own states. But if they want to hijack our apparatus, they better be doing it from one of the New England states because it's not going anywhere beyond there.
Exactly. This is a New England focus group. This is our home. We don't want our home to continue down the path that it is currently on. We want the people to take the government back, just like we did in 1776. New England is where the United States started. The battles of Lexington and Concord, the, Boston Tea Party, the Pine Tree Rebellion, most of those really big events that everybody thinks of during the revolution happened here in New England. This is where the fires of revolution began to burn the brightest. And we want to fuel that flame, get it burning as bright as it was 250 years ago.
Where the ideas of liberty are strong and just as you know so intertwined within society that people won't have to think about it, that people will just be like, oh yeah, like guns, everyone has guns, like it's just something that's a given, right? We want that to be ingrained and that future generations growing up will know the liberty that is being threatened today. We don't want to have to open the fourth box of liberty. We don't want there to be any violence. We don't want this to happen to anyone else. And for
Yeah.
those who are listening and viewing, I pointed to the picture of Charlie Kirk that hangs above my head.
Yeah. I believe it was Ronald Reagan who once said, freedom and liberty is only one generation away from extinction.
And the 10 scariest words in the English language are I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Yes, exactly.
He
No,
has a
the
lot of those one-liners. I remember one where it was like he was speaking. He's like, yeah, the people of, and then like a balloon popped, and he's like, "Myth me."
that was specifically after the assassination attempt that
Yeah,
was
I
on his
know. He's
life,
like, "Miss
and
me."
yeah, the balloon popped, and he said, "Miss me."
Everyone laughed.
Uh,
Um, yeah. For me, I think temperamentally is I focus a lot of my attention on what character traits and character qualities are needed to stage this uphill battle. I think it's not hopium. Um, I don't want to say relentless optimism. I think realism with a chef's sprinkle of optimism, but also most of all resolve. I don't care how bad things get. I don't care how much we have to sacrifice. This is the hill I'm gonna die on. I've said like I'm not gonna move out of Massachusetts. Um, anything short of hot civil war, and even then, it'll be heavily debated in my head, and it might not even happen. You know, I'll probably I'll probably die of martyr for this stuff, but the point being is that you need the resilience and the resolve to actually make a difference. It needs to be a long-term battle. The other thing I'm thinking of is that the why has to be strong, but I'm also thinking a lot about the how. And I think what separates us in a way is a lot of movements focus on the how without having a really strong why. But our why is crystal clear. And so as we go forward and as we continue to grow, we must not lose sight of, three crazy guys trying to take over the world. Uh, the 3% that was needed to win the American Revolution, I don't really care how fast we grow. What matters more to me is how long we last. And we want to be a movement that is still active well into the next century because it takes this long-term battle. And most people think in uh uh, like 20, 30 years. Like I'm thinking 70 years into the future because it will take a lifetime.
It really will. I mean, you think about the history of the United States as well, and in less than 100 years after our founding, we were already having a civil war. You know, like the fact that, the founding in 1776 and then 1860, Americans are shooting at each other without, the continued work to try and keep everything together, things will fall apart. And in this day and age where people seem more divided than ever, we are trying to bring people back together to prevent another, another civil war, to get people to understand the importance of politics and potentially even bring everyone back towards the middle, at least here in New England. You know, obviously, if you look at a political map, all the cities are this deep, deep blue, and then you get into the smaller towns at least here in Massachusetts, and you start to see a lot more red. You know, um, God, I'm pretty sure that the vast majority of town level positions are filled by, people who are registered Republicans, and registered independents. They're not registered Democrats. If we can get people to understand, find that middle ground.
Right, because too far blue, we have seen how terrible that can be with our tyrant Governor Murahili and the entire apparatus, which is blocking the audit and trying to push the assault weapons ban. But on the same token, going too far and pendulum swinging in the other direction is not exactly what we're trying to do either. We don't want
No.
entire dominance. We want it to sort of go purple. But have it be where reasonably either side can win and actually govern in that way. Because even during like the Baker administration, when Charlie Baker was governor, I mean, both houses were veto proof majorities. It was sort of just like, yeah, we could throw we can throw a red guy the governorship. It's not going to matter, right? I think that remaking the ground where either side could win and govern, and the people will be able to decide whether to keep that in play. The price of liberty is eternal vigilance.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the fact that so many states are becoming so polarized with their uniparties. I mean, Texas is an absolutely fantastic example of, what happens on the right when they gain too much power. Florida, same thing. But then Massachusetts and New York are prime examples of what happens there. Some of the
Massachusetts and California.
I think some of the best states or examples of states are ones that are, a very um, you know, or what we would call swing states. those states aren't really ones that are filled with much controversy because their politicians are fully aware that they can be voted out at any time by somebody from the opposing political party. So they have to toe the line very, very closely between, okay, here's my leftist ideas, but I also have to give into some rightist ideas, or I have my rightist
Right.
ideas, but I have to give into some leftist ideas, because if I want to stay in my position, I have to keep everyone happy.
Right. We're not red and blue. We're red, white, and blue. We should be. I don't think patriotism is a partisan issue. I don't think respecting America is a partisan issue. But in order to
I mean, honestly, you could even just replace patriotism with nationalism. It's not a bad thing
in order to
when done
keep
for
the
the right reasons.
revolution, you need to know what the revolution is. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, what is it? We tear down the statues and people forget about the history.
Something like that. So to close out, um when leaving the Constitutional Convention, Benjamin Franklin was stopped and asked, and they said, "Mr. Franklin, have you given us a democracy or a republic?" And he says, "A republic, if you can keep it." And so that is our job, to be the keepers in order to preserve, protect, defend, and maintain the Constitution and the rights of the sovereign citizen against tyranny. That is our sacred cause, our sacred duty, and what we will give our entire lives for. Uh, and please make sure to spread the signal. Also, shameless plug, Project Revere. If you want to be a part of this movement in order to continue, we don't have a money thing. Too bad we haven't set it up. But you can do this form that we set up, and it'll be in the link in the description. Please go there right now and and make sure to volunteer with Project Revere.
Yeah, I will also say that the volunteer forms for Keepers of the Revolution, Project Revere, they are separate forms for the individual organizations. They information for one does not go to the other unless you fill out both forms. We keep that information purely for the purposes of contacting you about volunteer opportunities. It is not sold or given to any other external organizations. It is kept purely by us. And if you do not wish to volunteer anymore after having filled it out, simply let us know and we will remove you from our contact list.
You bet. All right. Thank you all very much for watching, and be sure to spread the signal.